All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Hope all is well with everyone. Welcome to the I Am Alpha podcast. Today, I get to talk to you about a lot of different things. But first and foremost, I want to thank every single one of you that have been a part of the I Am Alpha podcast. This is literally starting from the ground up. And with that, a lot of your opinion and inbox and DMs and phone calls and text messages mean the world. So thank you for the support. If it's your very first time on, make sure you turn the volume up on your headphones or on your TV, wherever you're listening or watching this at, because the goal in this is to empower people. Right now, I'm using this platform to talk to men because I'm a man. And there's things that I want to address because there are things that I've conquered, but there are things that I know I'm eventually going to go through, or maybe potentially currently I'm facing some of these giants. And this is my way of talking through it with some people that are gurus and things that I want to learn. So I want to thank every single man that's been able to come on to this podcast show. You guys have been pioneers for the show. Now, again, thank you. Today I am going live, so I would love to get some feedback from you, ladies and gents. So anytime, at any moment, if you have any questions or would love for me to talk on a specific topic that I'm already talking about, perfect. Go ahead and comment below. But last thing before I go into what I'm going to go in today, the show obviously is I Am Alpha, and I have had nothing but men on. But in the future, there will be women on this show as well, because we don't want just perspective from the man side, right? I don't know about you, but man, I need to learn the other creature as well. I need to know how she feels, how she thinks as well. But that's what the podcast show is all about. So for everybody that's on, what's up? Glad you're on. Share this right now. Tell all your friends, cousins, Uncle Bobo, baby mamas, whoever you need to get on, to please get on. But today we're going to talk about the recap of season 1. And what's going to happen in season 2? Season 1, the subject title was Did Your Father Raise You? For those that have been keeping up, man, it was very eye-opening. It was very touching, for some emotional, for others a sense of release. And not just for those that I were able to talk to on the mic, but also for those that reached out to me, or those that I might have seen at the gym or out and about in public. To see that it was impactful because maybe you were going through some of the same challenges and maybe generation curses. Maybe you didn't even notice the reason why you were acting the way you were acting, but that kind of opened your eyes to a different perspective to have those conversations with certain people. Man, that's what the I Am Alpha podcast is all about. So I'm going to go through each person. And I'm only going to give you my reaction of what I took away from it. And again, if anybody's on live and you comment and you've seen that episode, definitely give me your 2 cents in, because I definitely would love to hear and see what you say. Larry W. Brooks. He was the very first person on. A friend of mine. I've been knowing Larry over 10, 15 years, I want to say. And I know him as a guru, as a marketer. I know him as a guru in the real estate business, and his firm does an incredible job. So for him to come on and be very transparent the way he was, it meant the world to me personally. The thing that I want to bring out with Larry's podcast that I learned was that he was a curse breaker. You see, him and we grew up in 2 different households. Larry grew up in a household where his grandmother pretty much raised him. And I grew up in a household where my father and my mother raised me. Now, remember, the subject title was, Did Your Father Raise You? And I began to ask Larry questions. He began to ask me questions. And we began to kind of go back and forth on different experiences, what he wanted to adventure to as a child but didn't get to, the things that I was able to adventure to as a child, and I was able to kind of reflect on that, and I was able to put my feet in his shoes. I wanted to see how he felt when he went to his football game and his father wasn't there, right? Or I truly believe that it was so eye-opening to me because, as I said on that podcast, I'm the legacy continue. He was a chain breaker. And I admire him because, again, one of the most people that I admire anybody in this world, as you've heard me say numerous amount of times, is my father, because of the chains he broke. And I'm looking at him and I'm seeing the parallel, the comparison, right? The reason why I probably admire Larry as I admire my father, because they're chain breakers. So that was my takeaway with Larry. Just be the chain breaker, have faith. The one thing that I walked away with an action step was to do what Larry do well. And what I mean by that, if you know Larry personally, I'm telling the truth. But for those that don't know him personally, you can call Larry for anything and he's there. Hey, Larry, I got a birthday party. You coming? He's there. Hey, Larry, I'm coming out with a book. He's there. Hey, Larry, I'm opening a grand opening on the gym. Will you be there? Like every single thing that I've ever been a part of and I've invited him to or asked for support, he's there. And his podcast show, I don't know if you remember that portion where I forgot the exact detail that we were talking about, but I know to an extent we were talking about who has impacted him as a male. And I remember him talking about, I want to say it was his uncle. No, excuse me. Take that back. It was his coach. And how his coach went to his grandmother and stood up to her and basically was like, this kid need to get involved in sports, football particularly. And you could see the emotion in Larry, where the one of the few guys at that age that built and empowered and had faith in him for him to do better, it touched him deeply. And I see it now that I know Larry the way that I know him. Potentially, maybe that's why he's always that guy that's trying to support. Maybe he's that guy now because the one person that did that, he want to now pour that into as many people as he can. So that's my takeaway for Chris, right? Be more like Larry. Check on people. Call them. Can I be a helpmeet for you? You got an event. Do you need any help with your event? I see that you're starting school. What can I do to make your experience better? So I think the impact that man had in Larry's life, that's why he's so impactful to so many people. And that's my takeaway right now. How can I be impactful? Like if you online, like give me some vibes, man. Let me know how you guys feel with that. Because the honest truth about it is hopefully somebody's empowering you. And the one person you do not want to be is the person that always take but never give, right? I don't know who I'm talking to, but some people that all they want to do is give. All they want to do is take, but they're never there to give. It has to be a healthy relationship. You have to give and take. And that's what my walk away with Larry, to be more of a giver, right? To be more of a person that look for the abundance out of people and how can I help them find that abundance, right? Man, love you guys, man. Second person, Sean. With Sean, he has his hands in a lot of different things, right? He's in education. He has his own business where he customized suits. He's a pastor at our ministry. And other things, right? As he mentioned, he's an author. As he mentioned, he can be known as the dating coach. And what I took away with Sean was I never knew, because of the person that he is now, I never knew that he dealt with anger. How can someone right now that is so laid back, that is so confident in empowering others, how could they have ever dealt with anger in the way that he's dealt with it? I remember the sequence now, the conversation we had on the podcast when he wanted to impress his father so much. And his father would say things in retaliation, and he probably didn't know better, but he said it. And when he said it, it built a certain anger inside of him. And it took years and years for him to identify and to turn around. And my takeaway with Sean is like, wow, I know him now as the person that wants to speak into people's lives, their spirits, to help the next generation that's getting prepared to go to high school. Like, to be that guy, where did you learn and where did you have the courage to do the opposite of what takes place inside of you. And that's my takeaway, because we're all there, right? We all have these emotions that we've been through or we're going through, but there's still a bigger task that we can do. There's still something that we can do to empower and love others. And I believe that's the healing. Like, don't miss that. That's my takeaway with Sean. Even the things that he deal with emotionally or mentally, the love and the implementation of helping people grow and to get the best out of them, that's what heals him. Feel me? So now I'm looking at myself like, what can I do today to help someone else? Because if I help someone else, maybe that's the healing that I'm looking for. I think as men, sometimes we get to a place where we're so macho and we don't need no help and we don't want to open up about some of the things that we go through, and we isolate ourselves. I believe that's the trap. It's the isolation. As soon as we start isolating ourselves, and come on, we all have that homeboy or that homegirl, they fall off the map when they go through things and they're hard to get in touch with. Like, how can we help if we don't know what's going on, right? So it's the same thing with you and I took that from Pastor Sean. As courageous as he is, he does an incredible job of communicating. And that's my takeaway. Even in the challenge, help others, because that has to be the healing. Here, I'm going to go through a couple comments real quick. Milton said Larry's dope. Crystal, man, I haven't been able to catch these live before. I have a strong thoughts about these men journeys. You know what, Crystal? I think that as we pour into growth, right? Like, I don't know anybody that does not want to grow. And I believe we're like trees. I simply believe every day that a tree lives, it grows. But the day the tree stops growing is the very same day a tree starts dying. And when you look at these men, some of them, right? And when I say no, I don't mean personally. Some of them, because that's your father, that's your grandfather, that's your uncle, that's your brother, that's the guy at the gym, that's the guy you work with. And you start to see why their patterns and their reactions are certain ways. And it's not because they are that way. It's a pattern. It's a culture that created that. And I think that's the power in the I Am Alpha, is to identify so we can grow. And not just grow because you've conquered it, but grow to help other people to conquer the things that you've been through. So I'm glad you were able to say that and feel that way. Third person, Danny, episode number 3. So what's cool about Danny, I actually hit Danny up, I think a day before. I was supposed to do a podcast with someone else and something came up, and he's just such a great person. He's one of my brother's closest friends. And if he's my brother's closest friend, then he has to be a close friend of mine, right? So I hit Danny up. I call him D-Boy. Hey, D-Boy, can you come to the I Am Alpha podcast? He was just so honored, so quick to act. But the takeaway that I have, again, the subject title is, Did Your Father Raise You? So we talked about that. We talked about me being black and him being Hispanic and the different neighborhoods. But there were a lot of parallels that him and I had because we both were raised by a father. But the takeaway that I have for him was he said something so unique. I don't know if anybody ever told you this. I don't know how old y'all are, right? But I don't know if anybody ever told you this when you were younger, that, man, when you get my age, you're going to wish you knew, right, what I know now. Or the other term, man, if I can go back in time and do what I could do at the mindset that I have now, man, I would have life at a different, grip. And I noticed when he said, even though he thought his father was tough on him or the structure that may have been in his household, through maturity, right, he noticed that they were only putting him in the best position. And now, if you know Danny the way that I know him, he's kind of the glue of a lot of my friends in the circle that we're friends with. We don't go to basketball, football games potentially if he doesn't set it up. We don't go to the barbecue with our kids unless he set it up. And because of that structure that he's learned through maturity, through the way that he was brought up, now his friends are now friends, and they now are more consistent with each other because of his structure. Him being an engineer, doesn't that make sense, right? The Excel sheet, the structure, the consistency, the implementation, the organization, it all makes sense. And it all was developed through the household. So my takeaway was, even through the season that I'm in now, or the one that I'm going through next, or the one that I've been through in the past, or the way that I can educate my sons, even if you don't understand the process, you got to trust it. I don't know who that's for, man. Even if you don't understand the process, you got to trust it. Because as a child, right, as a teenager, I said this once before. I think I said it on the podcast, actually. I remember a time when I didn't have a car, but my parents would let me drive their car because I had a license. And my thing was, I thought my parents, or my father specifically, was being so tough on me or Milton because he didn't want us to drive around with boys or our homies in the car. And now through maturity, now that I'm, decades older, I see now, especially now with the attention that goes into, your skin color, right? Maybe he was saving my life at that moment, because if I'd have been riding around with a group of dudes that could potentially had, we got pulled over and they want to talk crazy to a police officer, what could have that happened in my skin color, right? In the neighborhood that I was in, right? Or maybe got pulled over and I didn't know they had a bag of weed in their pocket. Like, it's so many different things that happen because of, let me rewind. It's so many other things that could have happened if I wasn't coachable with my father. And I took that from Danny. Even if you don't understand the process, you have to trust it, because through maturity, you'll learn that the thing that you're learning and executing, it will be the thing that you can potentially be living off of. So Danny, man, I definitely appreciate that. Neiman, what's up, man? Just actually talked to my homie a couple hours ago via text. So yeah, Nemo. So conversations, I think, with men, right? Specifically, this is what we don't have all the time. And I think as you and I grew up right in the same neighborhood and we've been knowing each other for decades, if we meet up and the only thing we talk about is basketball, right? Like, we're really limiting ourselves, because I know you, Nemo, you know me well. There's a lot of things we deal with that goes way beyond basketball, right? I haven't picked up a ball in months or years. However, there's certain things that we all deal with, but when we don't connect and communicate, man, I think that's when it gets tough, right? So I just want to encourage the man that hears this. Look, bro, like, your conversation has to be more than sports. It has to be more than what you see on social media, because we all deal with so much more than sports and so much more that's on social media. It's healthy to be able to connect with people. It's healthy to talk to people that may have experienced things that you've experienced. It's healthy to talk to people that have maturity of life, right? There's healing in that. There's growth in that. That's true strength. And appreciate you definitely connecting and saying that. Erica said, did your father raise you 2.0 women's edition? Yeah, so that's definitely part of the plans, right? Because I'm a man, right? And obviously this is the I Am Alpha, but I'm also curious for the woman that raises a child when they didn't have a father figure. Better yet, what about the mother that has to raise a son that didn't have a father in her life? Or it's so many, obviously, topics and things we need to travel to, but definitely have that on the horizon. Person number 4, man, episode 4. It was my right-hand man, my bro, Milton. I almost called you your nickname, Milton. I don't know if you're on here, but, it was so cool for us to share stories on camera. And it was even better for me to walk out and about, and so many people listen and seen the episode, and they thought it was hilarious. For number one, some of the things that we experienced, kind of like my brother making me fight at a young age, and the kid was older than me and he had a bat and I had a rake. I don't know why he didn't get me a bat either. Like, don't send your boy in there. But what's weird, I ain't gonna say it's weird. What's interesting is that when we record these episodes, I actually go back and watch it. If anybody's in the chat, let me know if you ever watched the episode more than once. But I love seeing the reactions of the things that I once heard that they potentially didn't even remember, or I brought it back to their remembrance. So when I talked about that, that sequence, And I told Milton, I remember fighting John Boo. I remember you sending me out there. I remember being terrified. But because of that, I've never been fearful of anything else. Like stepping up to the free throw line with 1 second, that's not fear. Fear was facing John Boo with a bat. I was able to conquer that, right? Opening a business, executing, being consistent, right? Like doing those things, that's easy. Fighting John Boo when he on top of me, punching me, that was tough. But he developed that into me at such a young age. He created something inside of me, and it was so cool for Milton to kind of look back and say, dang, I do remember that, but I didn't know I was developing that mentality in you. And that was my walk away, is that with Milton in episode 4 was that there are so many conversations you have with each other, and you will not imagine the way that certain people will retain certain verbiage. I mean, we all can reflect on that. It's probably some little things that you live off of. I used Ricky Bobby in the movie that Will Ferrell played when his dad said that if you're not first, you're last. And then when he finally meets his dad and tells his dad about it, his dad's like, I don't even remember that. And then he said, if I did say it, I probably was drunk or high, right? But it's a sense of truth to that. We all live off little things, or I ain't gonna say little, but we've all made decisions based off things that we've heard. So it was so cool to hear Milton's reaction, even though we shared so many experiences together. I just thought that was incredible. And also to see the same things Milton and I benefit in is because of our father. It was so cool to reflect and talk about that. I just thought that was amazing. Yeah, so I agree, Ms. Dawson. Milton is an amazing brother. He's good at motivating people more than 100 pounds down. Shout out to you, first and foremost, for being 100 pounds down. I think losing weight is one of the most difficult things to do, but better yet, to lose 3 digits and keep it off, man. That is serious work. So keep up the great work. Again, for those that are logging on, I see some more people logging on that's doing getting on live. I Am Alpha Podcast. I'm glad you're here. Subscribe if you haven't. Turn on the notifications. We're recapping on season 1. I'm going to talk about the 5th and final episode of season 1. Then I'm going to talk about, and I would love some reaction from you guys that are out there on season 2. So episode 5, I bring in the man I've been talking about for every single episode. I started each episode with a story of me and my father or whoever. And it was so cool to sit down. But honestly, the conversations before the podcast and after the podcast is what I cherish, right? I remember my dad as we mic up, we get the lights ready, you make sure your shirt on right. And I remember him saying this, and it touched my heart. He said, man, I didn't know y'all think so highly of me. Right? And he was like, man, just hearing this, I thought it was so heartfelt, because for a guy that I love to the core of my bones, it was so cool for him to hear it. Right? Because I think my friend taught me this a year ago when we did a podcast on another platform. She said that I want to give you your flowers now. And I think that's the one thing I know my father and I talked a lot of whatever we talked about on the podcast, but the thing that I took away with that episode was actually the conversation right before. Man, tell people what you've experienced with them and how it benefited you. I just seen the alertness in my dad, like talking about, man, I remember doing this, and man, I didn't even know you remembered that, or I didn't know that, I didn't even know you had, I didn't know that had an effect on you. And I really truly believe in a healthy relationship, you give people reasons why to grow. And I think for my father to hear and see these podcasts, I think that gives him a sense of like, man, I still got work to do. My sons still look at what I'm doing to this day. They still live off of my philosophy today. They still live off my consistency today. They wake up early in the mornings and stay up late because of my work habits that I've had, and I developed that in them. Like that little, I don't know if you're on Homie G, but that little segment you said before we got on the podcast, I didn't even know y'all thought that highly of me. I didn't even know y'all remembered all those things. Like, for him to say that meant the world. But my dad is so cool, man. He's so player, but I just think that my walk away, I know we covered a lot in that episode, but truly that was it. Papa Green, he's dope. My boy Bobby, yeah. Papa Green. Yeah, we have to get, LB said it, right? We got to give our flowers out more. And look, I think sometimes when I meet people and we develop a relationship, I will tell someone I love them now. Like my boy LB's on. Like we in a group text and we'll tell each other we love them. Like, happy birthday, man. Love you, bro. And I think that as long as I've known him, I would say, because a lot of life situations probably happened in the last 5 to 10 years between our friend circle. Like, there's nothing wrong with telling someone you love them, right? Today is actually a birthday of a guy I grew up with, and he's not here on earth no more. And every year, man, when his birthday come up and people start posting pictures of him, man, it's so heartfelt. And again, my homie's actually on. I remember him speaking at his service, right? And he was just like, man, I love you. Like, guys, we got to love more. We got to tell each other we love more. That was such an empowering, I'm going to call it a speech. I don't know if he remembers that. Obviously, he probably does. But that was my takeaway. All right, guys. So season 1, it's a wrap, right? Did your father raise you? I hope that it was impactful. I hope that it was empowering. And I believe that we're building a foundation for the I Am Alpha. For the last couple of minutes, and this is where I need feedback, 'cause I want to see what you guys think, because the reaction of your opinion will be the guests that I call and invite to this show. The second season, the subject title is called The Voice of an Unspoken Man. I repeat it again. If you're on live, go ahead and comment in the chat section. The voice of an unspoken man. So I want to give you some verbiage of why I chose the subject title and then what we're looking to do with it. The truth is that I have some friends, they don't say nothing. Like, I don't know if my boy's on. He's probably not. But my boy D. Crite, he don't say nothing. Like, I love my guy. He not going to say nothing. But if you ask him a question, he'll answer. Did y'all catch that? You bring my boy D. Crite right now, you bring him into the crib, he'll sit around all 6, 8, 10 people at the crib. He not going to say much. But if you ask him the right question or a question, he's going to answer it. And that's just how men operate, right? There's so many things we all think we've experienced, especially for my ladies. You like, why won't he just open up? Man, we don't have to talk about it. But if you ask us, we'll open up about it. And that's my goal with the voice of the unspoken man. I want to ask the questions that men deal with, and we're going to voice it. So again, every man's different. Every person's different. But the subjects that we're going to talk about, and I listed it, so as I look down, I'm just going to write them. The first one is pain. And before I go through these, look, I'm not speaking from a place of perfection. Like, by any means. Like, if this is your first time hearing me or meeting me, I am not speaking from a place of perfection. I'm just speaking from a place of I want to grow and get better. So I'm not teaching these concepts. I'm learning just as you are, but I will share my opinions, whether there were things that I succeeded in or, more importantly, things that I failed at that I'm looking to get better at. So first thing is pain. Pain is real. So pain comes in so many different shapes and sizes. Some of us deal with pain because something was done to us at a young age or maybe last week that is really hard to release, because the truth is, when you go through a painful situation, I think the hardest thing that I've witnessed is so hard to forgive when someone causes you pain. Yep, that's when the crickets begin to sound. That's when you can't hear nobody else in the room. The truth is, when somebody calls you pain and you love them, it's so hard to forgive. That's a reality. And that's the voice of an unspoken man. I really want to dive deep with the guests that I have planned and talk to them about how they dealt with pain or deal with pain, right? What have your experiences been like when someone hurt you or backstabbed you? What does it feel like when somebody did something to you at a younger age, right? I think one of the biggest stories, I see my dad's on. What's up, Pops? I hope you're okay with me sharing this story. but you have to be okay because I've heard you share it at church. Text me if you don't, or call me after if you don't. But he shared the story of a guy that used to be like a bully, just always just doing too much. And he did him so dirty where for years as a child, as he grew up to a young adult, like he was so upset with this dude. Like he was waiting to see this guy. And he finally seen this guy. And guess what was across the street? My pop said it was a pawn shop. Do you know what pawn shops sell typically? Guns. My dad had made up in his mind he was about to go across the street, go to the pawn shop, and go get that boy. I hope I can speak it the way that I feel it. And upon going across the street, that guy stopped him. And that guy began to tell him how sorry he was and apologize for some of the things that he'd done and how his life had been so hard. And at that moment, my dad was able to learn and know that he had to forgive him, because that guy been living with what he did to my dad for decades, potentially, as well as my dad has been dealing with what he did for decades. What if he would have forgave him decades ago? Right? Pain is really, really something that I think the unspoken man needs to develop and talk about. Number 2, anxiety and depression. Man, look, anxiety is real and depression is real. On this segment, man, the guest that's going to be there, he's someone that has not only implemented and been through it, but also have studied and he's doctrine in it. And to be able to break down, and I think I'm going to really, as of now, I think I'm going to use myself because this is such a sensitive topic for men or for people in general. But I'm totally fine with using some anxieties that I've dealt with and also some depressions that I've dealt with. And look, no perfection, right? I'm just want to get better. Anxiety, yes, I've dealt with it. You thinking of someone that went through a pandemic just like you, right? But you're running a brand that feeds your family and have people that are under your leadership that feed their family. You don't think that develops some type of anxiety, right? So yeah, depression. I lost my mother. You don't think that made me some type of depressed? Right. So again, I don't mind using myself, but I think that's a topic of the unspoken man because we've been through it and we don't want to talk about it. But it causes so much imbalances, and we bring right so much junk that's in the trunk. If you think of a car in the trunk, you can't see it. Right. That Ferrari looked really good, but you got some trash in that trunk. But the outside look good. But when you open up the trunk, there's a lot of mess. So that's what I mean by that. We bring so much junk into different venues, right? With your business partner. If I go on, I see my guy Neiman, right? If me and Neiman go into business, but he don't know that I'm dealing with so much when it comes to anxiety and depression, but we're business partners, he's now affected from it. So it's not just a relationship in a marriage, but it also can be business partners or friendships, or maybe you're a leader of a foundation or organization, or maybe you're a coach. We got to release the junk in the trunk. And men, we put on this really nice garment, right? We make sure our car is clean, right? We got some nice rims on it, but what's in it is trash. And it's time to release. Communication. That's number 3. Communication. The more you talk about something, the better you feel. We've all done it. The more you talk about something, the better you feel. So, the voice of an unspoken man. I want to break down the importance of communication, but also I'm going to tie this in with dating. Oh, I know this one's going to be like a hot topic because when you talk about communication and dating, it has to be hand in hand. So, the guest that I have on this one, I believe you guys are going to be in for a treat. And I know we're really empowering and feeding our men. And I know our women want to know men, so they really engage. But this one, yeah, communication from the unspoken man. Also, in-depth dating from the unspoken man. The last 2 that we have is, I don't know if we're going to add this in to pain, but as of now, we have it separate. Is pride. I'm going to keep quoting my dad. My dad always taught me and says that pride is very expensive, right? pride is so freaking expensive. And I want to talk about that as a voice of the unspoken man, because we do have to have pride in what we do. Don't get it twisted. Like, there's a sense of pride when you see your boy out doing his workouts or speaking, or there's pride when I'm walking my kids to the mailbox because they watching their dad walk and communicate. Like, there's a sense of pride that I have to have. But then there's sometimes where pride would get in the way of doing what's right. Then pride gets in the way of having integrity, right? Greed gets in the way of doing the right thing at the right time. But again, I think that's so important for the voice of the unspoken man. And then the last thing that I have is fear. Fear. Like, you are a lie if you say you've never dealt with fear. Straight up. I've dealt with it at a young age. Like, every single game that I've ever played in, from the 4th grade playing with the Blazers, right? Like doing the warm-ups leading up to the game, like, I was fearful sometimes. But I think the things that I've learned on how to face fear, how to face a giant is so eye-opening. And then the guests that I have planned for you guys, I believe we're going to break this down for a way for you to know that fear comes in different shapes and different sizes. But fear, man, don't miss this as I finish this podcast. Don't miss what I'm about to say. Fear is just an illusion. It's something that may not ever be, a reality. It may be something that has never happened before, but it's just an illusion. Now, pain is real. Touching a hot stove is real. Getting hit by a car is painful. Like, that's real. That's pain. But fear is just an illusion that we'll create in our mind, in our emotions. And I really want to dive in as the unspoken voice of a man to talk about how to deal with fear and how to deal when you're at an unfamiliar place. Unfamiliar place can be in business. Unfamiliar place can be dating. Unfamiliar place can be starting a career. Unfamiliar place may be going to college. Unfamiliar place may be being a father. Unfamiliar place may be communicating better. It's so many things that we are facing when it comes to fear. But fear will close you up and not allow you to ever grow. So that is a giant that we must slay. That's going to be it, man. That's going to be the intro into season 2. Definitely looking forward to it as I finish this out. As the subject title is called The Voice of an Unspoken Man. I know I have women online. I know I have my bros online. If there's something that is intriguing to you, that you think we as men or ladies you see into men that you would like for us to communicate and break chains off of and really discuss, I would love to see or hear that in the comment section. But again, man, as you guys are putting some comments in, if you are, just want to tell again, every single guest that we had, from Larry to Sean to Danny to my brother Melton to my father, thank you for coming on. When you have the lights on you and the mic in front of you, you think a lot of what you're going to say as you're driving to the podcast. But when the lights hit you, man, it's totally different. So thank you for being fearless and sharing your experience and being vulnerable and also transparent. So thank you, because you have helped encourage a lot of people. All right. So as I give you guys a couple more seconds, Crystal, first myth to bust: a real man doesn't cry or show emotion. Yeah. Personally, it is a myth, right? Because you have some people that cry, you have some people that don't cry, right? I think I said this before, that there is a science about crying and how it releases, but I'm not the scientist and I didn't study it. But I do believe that it is a myth because I'm a man and I can only express to you the way that I feel as a man. There's no weakness in showing your true emotion. Now, I do believe that you don't let people take advantage of your emotion. I do believe that men are programmed to be a certain way from a very young age, from the cartoons that we watch up to the movies that we watch. But at the same time, it is a myth. It's totally okay to be transparent. And look, I'm as man as it comes, but at the same time, I've had tears that hit my cheeks, and I'm okay with that. But I think that will actually be a really good topic. I think the thing comes down to insecure sometimes about, and when you hear the term or word insecurity, a lot of people want to fold up and get ready to fight. But no, I have some insecurities too. Like I don't know if you know me personally, but I have really, really small ears. Like sometimes, like I'd be like, man, if people looking at my ears, and people probably never even looked at my ears before, right? But I'm using that as a weird example. But sometimes when people show emotion, it creates a sense of insecurity. Like, man, if I'm crying, are they judging me a certain way? If I show that I'm actually going through it, are they going to be judging me? And that's a sense of insecurity. And I think if you ever met someone that's not insecure about something, they're bold about it. So for me, if you come to church with me and there's a worship song or something said, man, my way of releasing and my emotional, the way that my emotions speak is sometimes I'm not boo-hooing, but I have a tear that I just can't drop. I can't stop, excuse me. But I'm secure in showing that. But there were moments in my life when I would be insecure because I'm worried about people judging me. But for me, when I go to church, man, that's my place of relief and growth and strength. I don't care what people think about me. I'm not there for them. I'm there for God, for me, right? So, man, I'm glad you said that. Pastor Green, my pop said, the voice of the unspoken man, why men are not thinking marriage now. I think that is a really, hey, look, if you're on live right now, tell me if you think that is a really good topic. Why are men not married right now? I like that. And it has to go into programming, I believe. It has to go into pain. It has to go, because percentages show, numbers show, stats show, statistics show that marriages end. Just to be honest, that you're more likely to graduate with a bachelor degree, right? How long it takes you to get a bachelor degree? You're usually 22 on average, right? You graduate when you're 18. If you're, on top of it, you graduate school in 4 years. That's 22 years. You can go get a master's, another 2 to 4 years. Let's say 4 more years. You took your time. You're 26 years old. How many marriages last 26 years? The numbers probably show that more people get a master's degree versus staying married for 26 years. So I believe seeing and hearing that, it has to be part of it. But I think hearing that from a man, I think that's an amazing topic. Homie G, that's really good. Erica, talk to men who choose not to raise their kids. Ooh. Why regrets, and the effect on the kid, him, and family. Woo. I'm not going to lie to you. That was tough to read. You know what? Man, that would be, I don't even know how to respond. If I was able to connect with the guy that was open to speak about that, that would be very heartfelt. I still think of the scene of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Will, met his father after years and years and years, and he came and just popped up, and he acted like he was going to take him on the road with him, and Will was ready to leave his luxury, his blueprint of his happiness and success that he's had. And then when his father just kind of dipped out on him, I remember that scene of him hugging Uncle Phil, and he was like, "Why you don't want me? Why you don't want me?" And like, for the person that was not raised by a parent to actually hear some of the mindsets and the emotion behind their decision, I think that would be one of the most eye-opening, heartfelt things personally I've ever been a part of. So man, that would be, man, dang, that's deep. So as I wrap this up, I'm just reading a couple more comments. I am now Bobby, leave my ears alone. I'm actually asking my father that one. It was enticing. Yeah. Milton, I would like to do a podcast concerning relationships and the roles men should or should not play. Dang, that's another good one. The voice of an unspoken man. So I do have the communication in dating episode. Maybe we can tie that in because, look, there are different beliefs. There are different upbringings, right? Where men feel like they should play a certain role or should not play a certain role. And look, whatever works for you in your marriage, if it works, it works. But I'm interested in finding a person, which the person that's coming on is to me someone that has a vibrant, growing marriage, that's a father, that they do it the right way. I'm curious on the role, right? I think that's really good, Milton. Yeah. Dion, what's up? So I know, guys, relationship and marriage is going to be a really big season for us. So in this version of the unspoken voice of the man, we're going to talk about it from a standpoint of things that men think that they don't speak about in their marriage or in their relationship. But best believe we will, on the I Am Alpha podcast, have a relationship series. I definitely think that's probably going to be more of a panel discussion. But no, that's good stuff. Bobby, marriage, great topic. You have to be all in, but I know a lot who think they are not. You know what, Bobby? I will have Bobby be on the I Am Alpha podcast. Bobby, just give me a thumbs up if you're down. I think Bobby, hopefully this is okay, Bobby, for me to say, but it's a guy, and I think it's okay because I've told you this personally. I admire Bobby as the husband, as the father. I don't know how he creates. People think about me like, you don't have no time. I don't see how you get X, Y, Z done. But man, I mean, just to be so involved in his kids' lifestyle to everything else he does, man, I think it's amazing. But I would love to get you on because you're definitely I Am Alpha. So yeah, Bobby, I'm coming, bro. Yeah, I agree with you, Dion. Dion saying, ooh, child. So look, I think that's it. I'm going to get out of here. I usually try to get the show done under an hour when it's by myself, and an hour and a half when I have a guest. But look, man, your support has been everything. If you haven't already, please share this video. Do me a big favor on YouTube, right? Once we end this broadcast, if it was something that was said that was empowering or eye-opening or something you want to kind of lean towards more, please comment on the comment section with a thumb up button. It really helps us on YouTube. This is our way of getting the voice out and expressing the importance of I Am Alpha and how we can implement and grow and be consistent and be vibrant and live, right? That's the goal. I leave you with this. That's the goal. We have to be different than rocks. And I'm going to speak to my man right now. So bro, pops, uncle, cuz, homie, I'm speaking directly to you, man. We, as I Am Alpha, have to live and not just exist. There's a difference between a man and a rock. No, it's a huge difference because rocks, they exist just as a man. They're solid. Some can move, some you can't move. But the difference between the rock and the man is that the rock can only exist, but the man can actually live. We can speak, we can love, we can embrace, we can protect, we can secure. We have to be different than rocks, man. It's time to live, not just exist. I'm very grateful that every single one of you joined in today to the I Am Alpha. I'm privileged to know you all. I appreciate you all. And as LB said it, yeah. What Nemo said? Did I miss one? Maybe Neiman. This is my homie, guys. Nemo, you discussed this in your prior episode, but I'd like to hear more perspective of men who were raised by single mothers. Yeah. And Nemo, the reason why I think this is so dope to talk about is because I don't know how that is. I know 90% of my friends was raised by just their mother. I'm probably less than the 10%, right? You think of our circle, me, D. Crite, Taco. We're probably the only three. Everybody else. So I definitely would love to hear the perspective. And I can definitely do that. I'm going to write that down. I'll write it down right now. That's dope. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. You guys have been great. I love you guys. Thanks for your support. I'll see you next week with our first guest. Other than that, y'all stay blessed and be productive. Y'all take care.